Robin and Morris. Welcome.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Michael.
How, I like that. It's nice.
Thank you.
Smashing.
Thank you. Nice kids.
That was done in America?
It was done at our children's school in Miami.
Yeah. When, in fact, did you first start singing together? What was the first occasion?
1955, in Chorlton-cum-Hardy.
Really?
Yeah, it's one of the great sin spots of the world.
Very young.
Very young. But doing what? I mean, what were you doing?
Well, what we used to do when we were little children is, you know, they have children's matinees like they have in the cinemas and places like that. We would try to cadge our way on stage to, well, most of the kids cadged their way on stage to mime to a record, Elvis Presley, whatever it was, they'd mime, you know. And we had, our record was Tommy Steele's Wedding Bells. At the time we were going to mime to that. How, I do not know, but we were going to. And we broke the record on the way to the theatre, so we'd been practicing singing at home with tin cans on brushes, you know. and
Still got that?
Yeah, so we decided to actually sing instead of mime to a record, and that was the beginning of our career.
That was the debut?
Yeah.
But what kind of, when did you first get together and discover you could harmonise like you can?
The first time I remember, Robin and I were about 6, Barry was 9, and we sat in the little lounge room, and Barry got his first guitar for his birthday, and the first thing we sang was Lollipop.
Lollipop?
Which is the Mudlarks sort of thing. It was the only one we just automatically harmonised. Don't ask me where we got the lollipop from, but it was the only one that seemed to have the harmonising on each step.
Guitar for your birthday.
That's right, my 9th birthday.
Yeah.
So that was the first song we sang.
Can you remember it?
Lollipop, lollipop, lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop, lolly, 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 lollipop, lollipop.
Oh, dear. You went back, of course, to Chorlton-cum-Hardy, didn't you, on this recent...
But 2 weeks ago.
That's right.
Yes.
But was it a very nostalgic trip?
No, they told us to get out. Actually, it was very nostalgic.
Yeah, but it was
a wonderful day we
Yeah,
had.
we saw the little house where we used to live. It was a big house when we lived there, but somehow it got real little, you know. And, we were stood in the lounge room where the man who lived there now actually is where he keeps his pigeon, you know. So
You got a pigeon in the living room.
Yeah.
Right. Pigeon droppings everywhere.
Flightless pigeons. And that was the lounge room where we first played. And the hardest part for us was imagining how us and Mum and Dad ever got into that room.
Yes.
Because it's it was like a little
It was
toilet.
5 kids.
Yeah.
Or for that matter, how Mum and Dad got in the bedroom.
It was 5 kids.
But I mean, how...
Quiet. Sorry.
How in fact, I suppose it was that kind of circumstance which led you to go to Australia, was it? I mean, that was the...
Well, it was
to get
Mum
away
and Dad based. Don't forget we were kids, and it was Mum and Dad who made all the decisions, and they were looking for a better way of life, you know, rather than sitting in the back streets of Manchester, which was not all that pleasant at the best of times, and that's not really a put down on Manchester because we love Manchester, but they were looking for, in that period of time, Dad wasn't earning an awful lot of money, so.
Not a lot, nothing in fact.
Well, I'll say we were living.
Not too nice.
But was it a better life when you got there?
Well, for us, it was like...
Well, it was an adventure. I mean, all we knew of Australia was kangaroos, koala bears, and Aboriginals, and we expected to see them going down the main streets of Brisbane.
Right.
You know, said our first view was Perth, wasn't it? The docks at Perth.
That's right, and then Melbourne and then Brisbane, which
And
is
Woolloomooloo.
Billy Connolly's favourite place.
Billy Connolly's very big in Brisbane.
Yes.
If they could catch him, he'd be very big in Brisbane. But what did you... I mean, your dad had a fairly hard time, I believe, when you first went out there. I mean, there wasn't the land of opportunity, milk and honey.
Well, he was a bush photographer.
A bush photographer.
Yes.
Yeah, photographed a lot of bushes.
Well, you know what? He used to go out into the small towns and photograph people's families, you know.
Yeah.
That's right. People had never even seen a camera.
They had a caravan where they developed their own film, and they would shoot pictures of people and their families where they wouldn't go to a local chemist because they couldn't send off to get film developed.
But
Send
that
the odd
would make a
£20
fortune. So, I mean, did you help out? Were you performing
We did
then?
eventually.
Yeah, we started to do small club, small hotel work, which in actual fact we weren't allowed to be in, so because we were underage. So so our father gave up that job and started managing us, in a sense. And he would always we'd have to come in the back door of these places, and We weren't allowed to mix with audiences. We were too young.
What was your act like then? I mean, were you
rather dicey, I'm afraid.
Rather dicey.
But, we used to do Peter, Paul and Mary segments.
Well, we used to do old songs.
Mile Man to Dustman. You see, we were kids, and kids and dogs, you know, appeal very much to adults, you know.
And how old were you, in fact, at this time?
At this particular stage that you're talking about, we were probably about 7 and 9. Barry, we were 7, Barry was 9.
And what kind of curious gigs did you do in that period, apart from the clubs? Did you do any other kind of work?
Speedway. We worked in a speedway, that's right.
Which had people throw money. We've actually had people throw money at it.
Well, in between the races, you know, it wasn't during the races. It was mostly in between.
Although sometimes I wonder which way it should have been. Yeah. But, they would throw money on the track, we'd sing some songs, and then... and we worked in places like dockside clubs where sailors would actually have beer drinking competitions during the show, or there'd be a torrent of water pouring through a tin roof.
During monsoons and things like that, you know. It's true.
There used to be people sitting at tables and they would physically fight without standing up. Australians are great, you probably know that too. They'll get into a fight for any reason whatsoever. So they'll sit in front of us while we're singing and they'll be hitting each other across the table.
Hit him again. I suppose the big revolution in your lives will come when the Beatles hit.
That's right.
I mean, that must have changed your thinking about what you wanted to be and the kind of music.
When hair started stretching and point-to-toe shoes started getting rounder and things like that, that was for us. You know?
The pointed toes went out and the Cuban heels came in.
Be a group.
The brill cream was out the window. In that particular era, because it was the time when the Beatles first came around. It was the first time where pop music had a sort of seal of seriousness about it, rather than the solo singers with brill cream, you know, which was before the Beatles. It sort of added a sort of seriousness to the art of popular music, and that's what the Beatles. If any, the Beatles that did anything that was quite serious,
they made it respectable.
Yes,
they sort of made it on a more.
What were you writing songs at that time yourself?
Well, Barry was first, then Robin.
Well, we probably have the track record that beats them all. We had about 13 flop singles in a row.
Really?
Which we haven't beaten yet, folks. You never know your luck.
This is when we lived. Hang on, this is when we lived in Australia. As kids, because we had a recording contract with
they called it that.
A big record company that had very little time for children. And because we didn't understand as children that there wasn't really a market out there in the teenage market for records, you know. No matter how good the songs may have been at the time, they just didn't appeal.
What was the first record you ever made? Do you remember?
Yeah, hang on.
Yes. Hang on. Yeah.
What's this guitar doing here, folks?
It's by sheer coincidence this guitar is here.
Now this is completely unrehearsed. This is... It is. Well, we don't do this normally. We don't actually sort of spontaneously sing it. We have not rehearsed this song. What is it? What are you doing?
3 Kisses.
Right. This is the first song we ever recorded. It goes way back, folks, so the lyrics...
You don't really want to hear this, but we'll sing it anyway, right?
Remember, try and visualize 3 little kids. I know, it's very easy.
Kiss me once, oh yeah, baby. Kiss me twice, oh yeah, crazy. Kiss me 3 times, the 3 kisses of love. Oh yeah.
Beatles influence.
Morning, noon.
Watch the hands.
Yes, right. That's all right. I don't think you want to hear any more.
No, I don't think you do.
But what was the breakthrough though? Was there one?
The breakthrough was
Wine and Women.
Was a song called Wine and Women, which
we were a little bit older when this came out, I suppose. Again, unrehearsed.
Again, unrehearsed.
This was in Australia again.
Yeah.
Great intro.
Great.
Wine and women and the song will only make me sad. Love and kisses and hearts to think I never had. If this should end, I don't mind. If this should end, I will find. I won't complain. I won't complain. I feel no pain. I feel no pain.
That's it about one.
When you came to England, it must have been fairly difficult to get yourself established. Was it rough?
Very rough.
Yeah, no, carry on.
I don't mind. Please, no, please.
I don't mind. Well, we got off the ship at Southampton and we met we met this group who were all dressed like the Beatles were in Hard Day's Night with the black cloaks, you know, and all that business. And they said, you know, go back. Go back.
Go, you're doomed.
You're doomed.
That's like 3 shadows, 3 ghosts, you know. It's on the railway track.
Groups are out. That was a statement which is pretty amazing, considering that groups still do all right, you know. Groups are out, go back. So we didn't, but that was the message. And we went to see people like the Great Organisation and all these people who said, we can get your club work, boys, but groups are out. They said the same thing again to us.
And who's it, one of the grades we went to see who just...
Yeah, well, don't quote the poor man because, you know...
All right.
He's got 2 phones in his car now.
So I won't quote him, but he did say go away.
Yeah. But your big breakthrough came with a couple of marvellous songs that you did.
Yeah.
The New York mining disaster.
That's right.
And Massachusetts.
Yes.
Right.
New York mining disaster is one of my favourite songs. But where did it come from? I mean, the idea for that.
Well, Polydor Records, yeah, please.
It came actually, it was written in a very sort of strange place for that type of song. It was written in the basement of Polydor Records at Stratfield Court in London. And with all the lights out. We write our songs in very, very peculiar places. Yeah. And it was on stairs, in the dark. And I suppose, you know, because it was the atmosphere, you know, I mean, we didn't realise, of course, it was midday and it was right in the middle of the offices of Polydor at the very time, but, you know. But the lights were out anyway. Now, we just made up the song.
Well, we couldn't see each other.
But what was the thought line in New York mining disaster? Had there been a New York mining disaster?
No, we made it up. Well, there was a mining disaster in New
was.
York about 1935, but it didn't relate to the song at all.
It was in the state of New York.
We made it up. We were just sitting in the dark and we couldn't see each other. And that was where the idea sprang from. So what would it be like trapped in, say, a mine, for instance, and you can't see each other? Can we write something about that?
Yeah. We're very pessimistic people.
Full of joy.
At the same token, we wanted a song that, as it was our first single in England, we wanted a song to draw attention as well. So a title like that was not to be dismissed, you know.
Well, the idea in those days was to come up with the most ridiculous title you could come up with.
Right. We didn't want to, I mean, Matt Monro could not have recorded this song.
Well, will you play it for us now?
Yeah, sure.
I love this song.
Great.
Yeah, I'm ready.
In the event of something happening to me, there is something I would like you all to see. It's just a photograph of someone that I knew. Have you seen my wife, Mr. Jones? Do you know what it's like on the outside? Don't go talking too loud, you'll cause a landslide, Mr. Jones. I keep straining my ears to hear a sound. Maybe someone is digging underground. Or have they given up and all gone home to bed, thinking those who once existed must be dead? Have you seen my wife, Mr. Jones? Do you know what it's like on the outside? Don't go talking too loud, you'll cause a landslide, Mr. Jones.
Looking at you here now, playing together and so obviously enjoying yourself, it's difficult to believe that in fact you ever split up as you did.
Yes.
Because after the success created by this period we're talking about now, these songs around, you did split up and you went your separate ways. Did you actually dislike each other?
I think intensely at one point. We just did not get along.
Yeah, I was more or less in the middle. It was always between
It was
Barry
between
and
Robin and me, really.
Trades would say one brother one week, and one brother would say something about the other brother the next week. And what was your opinion about that, Morris?
Having
I don't
said
know.
all of that, Michael. No, I think the thing about that is that when it happened at the time, I think a lot of people that remembered it, that were around at that particular time, don't remember that we were very young at the time, a lot younger than people realise, and that we were also very green to the kind of success that we had initially.
Right.
And I don't think each of us individually knew how to handle it. And we had a lot of egos. Young people develop very fast and very quickly, and a lot of things that are of value to a young person are very superficial. including like relationships, don't mean a thing.
Yes.
You know, for instance, or how close someone is, or with the fact that you're brothers don't mean anything.
Or when you're hurt at that age, you're hurt forever.
You know, yeah, that's right.
As opposed to when you get older and you mellow out and you realise that there are you can get around these situations. And
yeah.
It was a success that was tearing you apart. I mean, you couldn't handle
yeah, we didn't see it as sort of saying, oh, well, it's success tearing us apart. We never thought of it like that. We thought, you know, it was very easy for somebody to get one of us aside and say, you don't need the other two. You know, blah, blah,
yeah,
blah.
we had a lot of that.
You know, that kind of thing. We're very green and very sort of trusting.
I think it still happens with groups today, very much.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know,
but again, it's just experience, you know.
Too much money, ego. When you buy 2 or 3 cars that generally people cannot afford at all, and you buy 3 of them, and that's an example of it. It was pure craziness.
Yeah.
There was no sense. There was no logic.
Lack of maturity.
Lack of maturity. Well, when you were apart, though, I mean, were you miserable then?
Oh, fed up.
That's what brought us back together, yeah.
Really?
Well, Rob, you know... I mean,
Yeah, you sat in a bedsitter in Madrid.
Really?
No, it's actually... No, actually, Robin puts it down to a fine sort of example, because when he had a hit with Saved by the Bell, we had a hit with Don't Forget to Remember, and they both went to #2. And the thing that he pointed out was that once you had a #1 record, or a big record, there was no one to share it with. You could turn around and say, guess what, love, you know, to the wife, the record's #1. She goes, oh, that's nice, dear. You know, but when you could share it between the 3 of us, we missed all that.
I think it was the fact that some bastard was keeping us out of #1. Got to #2.
Did you ever at that point, though, any of you, did you feel like giving it all up? And
We've considered that over a year. I think individually, when you get depressed now and again, you think, oh, I think I'll toss it in. This is ridiculous.
Yes.
You know, it doesn't work.
Yes.
You know. But I'm glad we didn't. We never did. We sort of remind ourselves of sort of, maybe it's a bit radical, of a sort of 3 Musketeer type situation.
Yes, that's radical.
A very close
Yeah,
personal...
it is very radical.
It is pretty radical, isn't it?
Yeah. Go on, anyway.
All right, 3 Stooges is probably close.
Curly, Larry and Moe.
Yeah, right. There's Moe sitting around there.
You were going to say?
Yeah.
Continue.
That is what is between us, and it's so much more fun being together.
But do you think it's also because we're brothers?
Yes, it might be a common bond there.
It might play.
But I think, you know, anyway, sorry, man.
No, I was just going to ask you to play a bit more music, actually, because I do like listening to you. I want you to do Massachusetts.
Oh, you hum it, we can play it.
Yeah, you should do that.
That's a tune like Billy.
Any particular reason why you want to hear this, Mike?
Well, no, I was going to... You should be doing my job. No, I just wanted
How did you start in this game?
I don't know. I met this fella in a pub.
General tune-up. This is
It's all right. Billy Connolly did it and got away with it. It's great.
right.
No.
Sounds good. Come on, I'm getting husky.
Okay, we're right.
Massachusetts, folks.
Love these intros.
Here's the line. Feel I'm going back to Massachusetts. Something's telling me I must go home. And the lights all went out in Massachusetts the day I left her standing on her own.
Trying to hitch a ride to San Francisco. Gotta do the things I wanna do. And the lights all went out in Massachusetts.
They brought me back to see my way with you.
Talk about the life in Massachusetts. Speak about the people I have seen. And the lights all went out in Massachusetts.
And Massachusetts is one place I have seen.
Remember, man,
as I said in my... I mean, that's the real standard. I mean, that would be sung as long as people sing popular music.
No, that would be nice.
Oh,
we haven't heard it since we recorded it.
No, it's a beautiful standard
we
song. Do you think of your music that way?
Yeah.
Well, we are mostly songwriters.
We probably take our music
do.
more seriously than anyone might imagine we do. We get very offended when anyone puts our songs down. We get really hurt.
But any songwriter would, or a writer or a book would, you know,
Yes.
the author.
You shouldn't really take it all that seriously, but we do.
Well, it does get up our nose.
It just... What are the statistics of what you've done, though? Who's the statistician here? Who's the one who... I mean, you've done everything that... Well, you've done more than any other group of musicians, apart from the Beatles, haven't you, basically? That's
one of the records is that we've actually equaled the Beatles record in America, which is 6 consecutive #1 singles, which we're very proud of.
Yes.
And,
plus we've got the #1, the biggest selling album of all time, which is nice.
Yeah.
Which is the
Saturday
Night Fever. Well, that again was extraordinary because, I mean, your career was down, you came back up again. You are in the introduction, I said, you're battlers, aren't you? I mean, is that by nature?
Well, it's...
I don't know.
I don't know, I think
in
so.
that
It's
particular
like,
period that we had in the mid-70s, where we had a pretty bad period because, for the fact of the matter is, we were very young even then at the time. We weren't ready to give up.
Yes.
You know, and I think it was very strange at the time. It was more so in England than it was in the States because in England they were going through a very peculiar musical phase at that time. With this sort of, which was described as metal rock or heavy metal, which is, and again, you know, as we were writers and producers first, we hadn't really explored all the avenues of our, where the areas we wanted to research. We found we could do this more in the States, which meant we had to leave England at that particular period, about 1974, to go and go more in the studios in the States, which is mainly Miami. Where we have our own studios now.
Yeah, I mean, we love England very much, but at that time we felt like the people in England weren't really interested in the Bee Gees. They were interested in everything else, and we felt sort of as if we shouldn't be around, you know. And so that reason we thought, if we went to America, we have a chance of making it back, but if we stay here, we might not, because there was people knew us so well, and they weren't prepared to accept us coming back so easily. So that's the reason we did it.
Well, you made the right move, and you are back.
Yes, we are.
And it's good to see you back.
It's nice to be back.
And you're going to, in fact, you're going to play us out tonight with a little Christmas.
Are we finishing off already?
Isn't that amazing? Doesn't time fly when you're having a good time? That's right, absolutely. Yeah.
So what are you going to sing for us, Michael?
I'm not going to sing.
Hang on a minute, just a second. You just said that you were going to sing out with a hymn.
You're a rhymester. I can see why you used to argue with me. You're going to do a little holy salad night.
All right.
Is that on Steve?
Yeah.
Here we go, folks. Oh, look. Oh, it's all right. It's a technical thing. It's nice, isn't it?
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round young virgin mother and child, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace.
That was lovely. Yeah.